listeners to the BizBlend Podcast, where business meets mindset, hustle meets heart, and also transformation. Well, I'm your host Sana, and today the topic on which we are going to have a conversation is personally one of my favorites, and that is the one which many entrepreneurs avoid until it's too late: business exit planning. So, whether
Mhm.
you are dreaming of a retirement or chasing a new passion, or you are simply getting ready for a new chapter in your life, knowing how to exit your business is just as important as knowing how to build it. So, listeners, my guest today is someone who has walked this tightrope and has lived to tell the tale. Listener, Tracy Gunn, she is a serial entrepreneur who's launched and run four businesses over the last 16 years. But when burnout hit, she found herself stuck with a business she couldn't sell. And fast forward, she has fixed it, sold it in just 3 months, and now she helps others do the same through her company, Get Exitable. So we'll uncover some of the stats, some of the surprising insights, and then we'll also understand how she's on a mission to change that and help 1 million, more than that, small business owners develop solid exit strategies by 2028. So, listeners, get ready to dive deep into this conversation. So, Tracy, welcome to the show, and it is such an honor to have you with us.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I love talking about this subject, and it sounds like you do too. So this is going to be amazing.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, let's go start from right now. So, you are on a mission, Tracy, to change or address upon the kind of worrying statistics in terms of how only 1 in 10 businesses ever sell. I mean, from where exactly does that come from, and why do you think there is definitely a problem to address about business exiting or selling?
Well, it's the hardest number that most people don't believe or
Mm-hmm.
understand exists, right? Until, see, I'm the cautionary tale, right? And that's the only reason I can speak on this subject, not because I am this great business guru expert, but because I've been there and I wondered to myself, why didn't somebody warn me? Like this is a thing. Yeah, so Biz by Sell a few years ago published that at least 85% of listed businesses do not sell. It could be as little as 1 in 10. And that's for a number of reasons. I mean, we have a what we call the silver tsunami happening where all the baby boomers are retiring, not enough people to buy the businesses. That could be a part of it. But
Mm-hmm.
really, it's because most business owners have jobs, not really businesses. And that's something that I myself, even though I had 42 staff, I really had to understand that, oh, wait a minute, the business isn't transferable. It's too dependent on me. That's why I can't sell it. That's why nobody wants it. Oh, okay, let me fix those things, right? Because really, at the end of the day, more often than not, we in our businesses don't want our jobs either. Most people don't wanna buy them. And so that's kind of where we get to this place where most businesses are not sellable because they are really jobs. And so that's, I think, the crux of the issue. There are other things in there, but
Mm-hmm.
what I love to say, and again, I'm a cautionary tale, but also a victory, in that I figured out how to fix some things to make it sellable. And it's just about planning, really. That's really all that it is, right? You've probably heard that saying about if you don't have a plan, you plan to fail.
Yeah.
Well, that's really true in business.
Mm. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Wow. Okay, Tracy. So let's start with your story. I mean, turning an unsellable business around in just 3 months. That is kind of, superhuman stuff. So, but practically speaking, what was that turning point for you that made you realize that, yes, an exit strategy was essential not optional for me.
Well, and so I'll tell you, I mean, for everybody, it's different, right? Maybe you're a retirement age and you're thinking about in the next year or two, I want to be finished. Maybe you just had a really bad year, a long string of bad luck with staff who make you hate your business, and maybe you're in a downturn in your like my region. But for me, I actually was running two restaurants and two candy stores all at the same time. I had
Mm,
42 staff. A lot of them worked at both restaurants or at the candy store and one restaurant. And what happened was for me, I was starting to get tired. I had done that for a number of years. Um, but ultimately, my daughter had my first grandchild. And I had already planned and worked out a system where quarterly I would go away on vacation for a week. So it wasn't like I couldn't leave the business. I had from the beginning, I had read the E-Myth. A friend had given that to me, and I really had set it up with this idea that
mm,
I was not going to be the business. I was going to just, work on it or above it or and occasionally in it if necessary. But the idea was that from the beginning, I would set it up for independence. And
mm,
so when my daughter had my first grandchild, I just wanted to go. All of a sudden, just like that, I thought, I don't want to be here anymore. I want to go hang out with the baby. And so for me, I thought, I'm just going to sell, right? That's what most of us start a business thinking someday we'll sell. And so that's what happened for me. I hired a broker who I knew was a nice man. But when he sat down and looked at all of my businesses, he basically said, don't bother, just liquidate and move on. That would be the easiest path. And
mm,
I have to be honest, like I didn't understand why. I didn't understand enough to even know whether what he was saying was true or not, because I was just trusting him. And it really broke my heart. And
mhm,
it took me a few days to rebound back. And thankfully, as entrepreneurs, we are so optimistic. We always feel like we could fix everything and do everything.
yeah,
And so, after a few days of crying and having a moment, I decided, well, if he is right, and that's an if, what can I do about it? And so for myself, I just gave myself a 6-month plan. I thought I had one restaurant that was very big. It was the biggest headache out of all of them. And I thought, I'm going to try to fix this. And if I can't, then I will have the right and permission to just close it down in 6 months. But over those 6 months, let me see what I can do. Let me learn what I didn't understand about
mhm,
what value my business was at, what made it sellable, who my buyer was, all of those things. And so that's kind of my journey of, and it took only like a week or two for that whole journey to happen. And then I was like, okay, I set a date, a deadline, and I set
mhm,
an intention or a plan. This is what I'm going to do. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to try. And that's
mhm,
kind of all that it takes really for any business owner. But the main thing that shifted everything for me was
mhm,
all of a sudden I was looking not at growing, scaling, improving. I was
mhm,
thinking about exiting. I had a deadline in mind. The time was ticking and it made me really focused on what I could do to fix things. And just that shift alone changed everything.
That is, there is so many things to learn. I mean, first of all, yes, I mean, I agree with you. As entrepreneurs, we are always optimistic, but we also need a lot of course correction, and
Mm,
uh, we should be always open to, first of all, have that awareness, acceptance, and then learning. Unlearning and then learning, and
right.
yeah, I mean, you crafted a plan, you set up deadlines. So, um, did that create a kind of fear within you that I have to accomplish this at any cost because right now exiting is my only goal, or you were completely focused on the process, the approach, but not much fixated on the output?
I mean, for myself, I do well under pressure. So this large restaurant that I'm talking about, I opened that in 2 weeks. By the time we signed the lease and opened, 2 weeks, and it's 6,500 square feet. So it's a large restaurant. And
Okay.
so I do well under pressure, and I know myself enough to know that if I give myself some pressure, I will perform.
Hmm.
I was scared. I was frustrated. I mean, that was part of it was just I was crying because I thought, gosh, all these years I built all these businesses and they were all running and making money and selling. It wasn't like we didn't have any sales, but
Mm.
I didn't realize that I had built systems, but I still was the fuel for the systems. I still was the person that made sure everything happened. Um, and I would be the touch point, right? Or the cornerstone. And so often business owners do that. They have created a system around themselves that they're comfortable with their skills and the things they prefer to do versus not prefer. Um, but it keeps them involved, but not so involved that they quit. It's like the frog in the pot that's boiling, right? They're just comfortable.
Mm.
Um, and so for me, I thought, gosh, until some outside force shifts that,
Mhm.
you stay the course. You're comfortable, you're making money, you are in a system, you maybe don't have to work 20 hours a day like you did when you began. You are comfortable.
Mhm.
And it requires that outside force to shift you into a different mindset, but also into a different direction, right?
Mm.
And that was true for me. And it took my grandchild, but I probably would have gotten tired of that routine after a while. But the grandchild move to the front of the line. Other people might have, a death in the family or get a medical diagnosis or divorce or their child has a problem or, whatever it is. It's not always that the business is failing. It's just that something has come about to make you want to do something different. Um,
Mhm.
and the reality is most of us do not want to work or own forever.
Yeah.
And so that's coming sooner rather than later for a lot of baby boomers, especially in the States. I know the stats better for the States, but they're talking like a third of small business owners will be retiring one way or another in the next couple years
Mm.
just because they're all in their 70s.
Yeah.
And what will happen to those businesses if they don't sell is that
Mm.
most of them will just disappear like they never existed and leave a vacuum, in my opinion. And so I'm hopeful that by raising the alarm and talking about the subject that doesn't get talked about a lot, that people start to think about it. I tell my cautionary tale about how I made a mistake. And I had
Mhm.
4 businesses that were all making money, but not enough money that someone wants my job, right? And about what I did about it. It doesn't have to be forever. Because I
Yeah.
think also who your buyer is
Mhm.
really matters. When you identify who might want to buy your business, what you do to sell is different. I don't know if that
Yeah.
makes sense, but if I was selling to my buyer that I found was a brand new business owner. So I had to make sure all the systems were working. And in a restaurant, there's a lot of systems.
Yeah.
But, if I were selling to another restaurant owner, he probably wouldn't care at all about my systems because he has his own.
Yes, that's right. That's right. This is really important, and we'll come back to kind of the prerequisites or um some strategies to consider. But
Mm.
uh, before even this, Tracy, how early should someone start planning for their exit? Because most of the entrepreneurs, they're so focused on growth and scaling that they kind of forget about this.
Right. I mean, for me, I like the term about and when I talk I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Mhm.
The idea of exiting is not just about selling. It's just not about retiring. It's not just about changing your mind and doing something different. Exiting for me, and again, over the years and teaching this and talking to owners, is really about getting yourself out of the dependency of your business, right? The business, getting transforming what you do from being a job to being an owner,
Mhm.
making something that can exist without you for an extended period of time, replacing yourself, right? All of those things. And that can go back all the way from the beginning. I talk a little bit about, like if you were going on vacation, let's just say,
Mhm.
and you had a destination in mind, how you plan for that, the longer you plan out, the easier the planning is, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people start their business and they have all kinds of plans about what the business will be. And many, many business owners never create another plan after that. They don't go deep into that because they're just in it. And so, I mean, I love this idea of it's never too early, but it's also never too late. And so I think both ends of that spectrum work. Um, and I think when you're starting to get the itch as an owner of either starting another business, getting out of the business, um, or just exploring new opportunities, that's the time before you do those things. That's how I wound up with 4 businesses, is to plan your exit from that business so you don't sabotage or destroy it on your way out into the next thing. Because the likelihood is that most entrepreneurs are going to do more than one business. We get
Mhm.
bored, we get excited about new things, we love shiny objects.
Yeah.
And so understanding that about ourselves is important. And giving yourself permission for that as well is also important. But if you're planning ahead for that, how great is that?
Right. Right. It really, really makes such a profound sense, Tracy. And okay, now are there any key milestones that entrepreneurs should look for? Because you also talk about setting the date
Mm,
as one of your three secrets to a
yeah.
successful exit. Why do you think it is so much important, and how does it shift the mindset? I would rather say prepare the mindset of
Mm.
business owner or entrepreneur.
I use this example a lot when I explain it. So for me, setting that date set the timer. It
Mm,
started to align the pressure. And every time, which is normal, I started to get distracted by another opportunity or
mhm,
another thing that comes into our line of sight. That date reminded me to get back on track. It was like it was putting blinders on, like, "This is what I'm doing for this long."
mhm,
And, I use this example a lot about, when you get engaged to be married, and you get the ring, if you're the woman or
mhm.
however, right? You get
Yeah.
engaged and you're so excited and you tell everybody, "We're getting married." But if you never set the date, are you really getting married?
No.
Right? And so it only becomes real. This is like something most people can understand. It's like it only becomes real if you set that date, you put the deposit down and you're like, we're committed. We're committing to this day, we're getting married. So on this day, we're exiting. And it doesn't mean it can't shift. Things happen. But the reality is when you set that, it becomes real. The
Mhm,
timer starts and it keeps you on track towards that goal without the distractions. It will naturally, like a magnet, bring you back to that center place of where are we going. Even after all these years, I'll occasionally get distracted and excited about another restaurant. And I might even explore it for a little while. But then I remind myself, what do I really want? Like, what's my
mm,
big picture here? Because also, exit planning is not just about getting out of the business, but what are you getting out of it for? Like, what's the point? It's not, oh, I just don't want to work forever. Maybe it's you want to go to your grandchildren, and that's a strong enough pull to keep you going. Maybe it's I want to retire and go live on a beach somewhere. Maybe I want to play golf every day. Maybe I want to do a different business. I've got to get myself out of this one so I can do the thing I want to do. That's also part of exiting. And so, a strong enough that between setting the date or the
Mhm.
deadline, the other thing about a deadline, like, so for myself, 6 months didn't seem so far away. I thought to myself, I could do anything for 6 months. As
Mhm.
much as I don't want to be here, I could do this for 6 months. It was reasonable enough, not too far out, right? Like if you said, oh, in 10 years, I'm going to exit, that's harder. It's so far away. It's
Mm.
very hard to stay on track. It's like driving from New York to California. You're going to get distracted. You're going to make a wrong turn because it's such a long journey.
Yeah.
Um, but if it was, just from New York to New Jersey, you probably will stay on track. You probably will follow the map pretty closely because it's close. Um, and so I think, setting even a little bit of an unrealistic expectation or date just
Mhm.
applies a little pressure as opposed to being so comfortable that you don't really take it seriously.
Yeah, that is pragmatic. It's pragmatic. Oh, okay. And Tracy, I would also love to know, maybe from a different perspective.
Mhm.
Um, there is a sentimental value attached here. Um,
Sure.
some argue that a passionate founder who is still involved is definitely a key to a business's success. We have seen quite a number of examples, where the founder, the visionary behind a particular company, when he or she was not there, that business kind of lost its soul. And
Yeah.
stepping away, it could scare buyers, or it could create a kind of sentimental, whirlwind within the founder or the owner. But
Sure.
your model focuses on creating a transferable business. So,
Mm.
is there a balance between staying involved and also preparing for a clean handoff?
Mhm. I mean, for myself, I use myself as an example. I on tribute, right, on this topic, because I will tell you this. This is what I found as a person going through it, not just once, but a few times, is that after a month or two of really focused energy on removing myself, so, step one is fix the basics. What are things you could pretty easily either delegate, eliminate, or automate, or combine, or some combination of those things, right? And there are things that we do every day just because it's easier that we
Mm.
probably should be doing, right? And then as you start to eliminate those things, you gain your time back and you're not so pressed, you're not so stressed. And so all of a sudden, I do remember the first restaurant that I was exiting. After about a month of delegating, I had assigned some really big things and also created a list and done a few different things. And all of a sudden I realized, gosh, this isn't so bad.
Mhm.
It was just that little bit of pressure off made me think of it different. And I, at that point, thought, this is about a month in, I thought,
Mhm.
gosh, well, if it doesn't sell, maybe I could still own it, but not be here very much. And so there is this other part of that as you start to remove yourself, you may find that you want to still own it, but you can do it on your terms because now you've now started the process of removing yourself.
Right.
Right? The independence, right? Like children they need us when they're babies.
Yes.
And as they grow up, they're supposed to be more and more independent. And
Yes.
we don't just bail on them at 18 or 20 or when they get married.
Mm.
Our involvement continues.
Continues, but it's less. It's like very strategic, very only when needed.
Right. And you get to enjoy the fruits of your
Mm.
labor as opposed to being in them and still earning them.
Yeah.
And so that happens quite often actually, that people because the thing is, all of a sudden when the pressure's off and the stress is off and they've kind of divested themselves of some of their workload, all of a sudden they like realize why they loved this business to begin with. Because they've had some space to breathe, to have some time off. I think there are some statistics out there that say that within a year or two of an
Mhm.
owner or an entrepreneur selling or closing their business, they do another one. And it's because we love this idea of creation and this pressure we put on ourselves and giving ourselves hard jobs and do hard things to see what we can do. Um, and very often that's what happens. And so it's not surprising, but wouldn't it be amazing if after 30 years you were able to sell or sell part or have somebody earn in or even just put a fractional C suite in there where you didn't have to be there all the time, but
Mhm.
yet still could profit,
Absolutely. Yeah.
right? Which is another path.
Yeah. I mean, you really gave such one of the simplest and the best example it could be. With the uh, kind of we have our children with us. They need us all the time, and they're babies. But
Right.
it's when they grow, they become adults. It kind of they need to be independent, but it's not like we are completely separating or cutting ourselves out from them. So
Right.
it's really, I think one that is the it could not be more right example than that. Um, okay, great. So Tracy, to take the next steps or action steps for all of our entrepreneurs and business owners listening to this conversation, if they need guidance, if they need more and more guidance into this, and they would like to start moving toward an exit ready business, how they can connect with you.
Well, so personally, I'm known as the Tracy Gunn everywhere. We do have YouTube channel and things, and we also have Get Exitable, same thing. GetExitable.com. We have lots of free trainings about how to start because really, the starting is the hardest part we have found because once you start, the momentum has begun. And now you kind of a little bit get addicted to delegating and getting your time back and seeing the difference. And so the hardest part is just to get them to start and to make a plan, to set a date and to kind of figure out what do they really want? What is their ideal situation at the end, right? And that again can change. Like I said, after a month, I was like, well, this wouldn't be too bad to keep owning, but not be here, right? I changed my mind, and that's okay. But it's good to come up with an idea of what you want to start and then also a timeline. And then from there, you kind of naturally will walk down that path of what's next. Well, how do I do this? And so we're happy to help. We have some trainings, we have evaluation. Most people don't know what their business is even worth or how to figure that out. And so that's one of the biggest things is like, wow, same for myself when I sat down with that broker
Mhm.
is I didn't know what he was judging me on because I didn't understand how he was judging. And so that's a really important step as well is to understand the value of your business and what your options are. So I have on the website, I have a free class. It's 5 days, which just a little bit today. We have some AI GPTs to help you figure some things out and some worksheets just to kind of start the process. Because once you know this is a thing, right? Like once you know, oh, wait, all businesses don't sell. Oh, wait, I don't know what my business is worth. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know when I'm leaving. When you start to see that you have gaps, all of a sudden you start to be more interested in learning about how to fix those gaps. And so that's what we found for people because it takes a little while.
Mm.
So anyway, getexitable.com and feel free on all the social channels to reach out and I'd be happy to help you.
Great. I'll make sure to have all the details mentioned in the show notes. And
Great.
Tracy, thank you so much. First of all, I think your journey, it's not only inspiring, but it's also a wake up call for every entrepreneur out there. And definitely planning exit isn't just about giving up our babies, but it's more
Right.
about setting ourselves up for that freedom and choice and yet
Mm.
connection. So I'll make sure to have all the links. And once again, thank you, Tracy.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a really nice conversation. And thank you for the opportunity to be able to just talk about it. Because I think the more we all talk about it, the more business owners will win this game of business and get rewarded for all the things that they've done instead of not. So
Absolutely.
thank you for that. Appreciate your time.
And it's a beautiful, beautiful message. And listeners, if today's episode has resonated with you, connect with Tracy at Get Exitable and uh, take that first step to start designing the future that you deserve. So remember, as I mentioned in the initial part of the conversation, as Tracy helped us understand that only 1 in 10 businesses sell. But with the right strategy, yours can be the one that does. Until next time on BizBlend, keep blending your passion with purpose and also build a business and life that you love and deserve.